Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. I want to, there's going to be some people that are new subscribers that don't know my style, and then you've got all of my regular subscribers who know me pretty well. And this trip is going to be full of a bunch of different things on my way up to Professor Meldrum's lab in Pocatello. I live just outside of Kansas City, and I've been involved in a documentary. I had an encounter in 2005 that's pretty much changed the trajectory of my life. And so now here I am involved with YouTube. So I want to thank you guys for subscribing, and especially all the people that have been here from the beginning. I love you guys to the moon and back. So I want to let you guys know that in this documentary that we've been involved with for the last few years, they wanted to go up to Meldrum's lab. I was planning on going up there into Washington and spend some time with a friend of mine named Jason Miller and go to his area. And he had submitted some evidence for a documentary, and it had gone through Professor Meldrum's lab. So I wanted to go there and discuss those particular items of interest with Professor Meldrum. So I was planning on going up there, and the documentary crew said that they would like to go up there too. So Jason was the conduit to the go-between for Meldrum and the documentary crew. So everything got worked out where they set up a day on the 13th of August that we would meet up there. So I was going to take off on the 12th and drive all day to get there. It was going to be about a 16 or 17-hour trip for me. And but previous to the trip, I bought a Jackery 3000 and a refrigerator cooler to try to make the trips easier, because I had planned on spending at least 2 or 3 weeks up there in the mountains, and I did not want to have to take trips down every couple of days for ice. I know you guys that camp know the pain and misery of having to get ice every couple of days. So I thought getting a Jackery and a cooler refrigerator would make my life easier. And it too came with its own problems, and I will get to that. But let's start off at home with my trip heading up to Pocatello. All right, everyone. The Jackery got delivered today. Just took it out of the box. It is now being charged. It's a Jackery 3000, and it's made for a backup for your home. So it should be more than enough power for an extended campsite. So I am going to charge this bad boy up. The refrigerator cooler that I ordered will be here on Tuesday. So I will be able to test it out to see what kind of length of time I can run that refrigerator cooler. It should be days and days and days. So Tuesday I will get that, and I am charging this right now, and I'm excited. It's going to be a nice piece of equipment to use for an extended campsite. All right, everything seems to be working okay. The Jackery charged up just fine, and it charged up the refrigerator cooler just fine. So even though it's a large cooler and would take up a lot of space in the vehicle, I believe it was ready to rock and roll. So I got everything packed up just so that I could head out the next morning. All right, well, today's the day. It is the 12th. I am leaving Leavenworth, and I'm still in town here. Just left the house, and it is just after 11, so it's 11:30. So it's saying I will get in Pocatello about 2:30 in the morning.
Turn left at the traffic light.
So This is the beginning of a long, long stretch. So, fingers crossed that everything goes uneventful. All right, everybody, I'm about 10 miles south of Rockport and about 80 miles south of Council Bluffs, Iowa. But I want you to take a look at these bluffs all the way up to Nebraska. Now there's a railroad, the river is over here to the left, and there's a railroad track that runs along the river there, and these bluffs are all on the right side. And years ago I had a friend who was a train engineer who ran out of Kansas City. I went to school with the guy, so of course I was not shy in talking to him about all of my Bigfoot stuff. And so he kind of became my liaison with the railway, with the run going from Kansas City to Nebraska along this, and he would let me know. And there was a couple of times that it was reported from an engineer who would see a possible Sasquatch crossing the tracks or on the tracks. And one of them was up here by a wildlife management area and a bird sanctuary. So, you know, take a look at these Bigfoots and Sasquatches. They do travel along these type of corridors along the rivers. Just an interesting tidbit. Thought you guys would be interested in that. I got a long way to go. Just getting started on this journey. So I'm gonna be on the road for another 12 or 13, 14 hours. Well, I just made it past Grand Island and Hastings on I-80 coming across Nebraska. Everybody knows Hastings. Hastings is where they have the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference every year. So I was able to make it all the way here on a tank before I needed more. And the refrigerator freezer's working really good. I just pulled me out a bunch of ice cold cherries. And now I'm ready to hit the road, see how far I can get on a second tank. All right, I am in Sidney, Nebraska, getting gas at a Maverick. So got this jibber jabber going on at the pump, but got me some coffee, and this fridge is working awesome. So I'm going to have to pour me some creamer in here. Good stuff. All right, testing 1, 2, 3. All right, me and Alex, we had to park a mile away from Meldrum's lab.
That's right.
He said that even he is not privileged enough to get free parking around here. So it's pretty hectic, and it's the summertime, so school is not even in session, and it's a nightmare. So I can imagine if this would have been a month from now,
I wouldn't want to be
we'd have had to take an Uber from the Airbnb.
Yeah.
This is the view Meldrum has from his office. And just think, he's probably tired of it. When we see it for the first time, we're like, holy, look at the clouds, shadows, and that's awesome.
There have been stories of creatures in the Mongolian mountains bordering Russia, of the Almasty, which some have argued is a relic form of Neanderthal that has persisted, didn't go extinct 23,000 years ago, that has persisted alongside our species in very remote, isolated.
Now, we were there all day in Professor Meldrum's lab, and I'm going to just show various still pictures uh, from different videos that I took that day. I'm going to refrain from showing the videos that the documentary crew is going to be putting on the documentary. There was a lot of information covered, a lot of discussions had, and a couple of curveballs that were thrown at us. So all of that's going to be on the documentary. I had a specific item that I wanted to discuss with Meldrum, and that is in the book Legend Meets Science, where he spoke about his first seeing footprints up in the Blue Mountains of Walla Walla, where he visited Paul Freeman, and they went up and looked at some tracks, the first tracks of that season. It's an interesting story, and I wanted to get the details on those tracks, and I will eventually take you guys up to that location. But this is the discussion in the lab about those specific tracks found on that specific day and how it changed Meldrum, and what he saw in these tracks, and the fact that we all have gathered so much because of that day.
Been very generous and made numerous copies for me to take with, and I had shared some of my papers and so forth with them. So on the way home is when we paid this surprise visit. It showed up on Paul Freeman's front porch. I had been in contact with him because I was in the process, actually, of writing a review of a little booklet called Bigfoot of the Blues, meaning the Blue Mountains, written by Vance Orchard, who was a journalist in that area, who wrote a column frequently. I think it was called Rambling Times. And his column featured themes relating to outdoor topics, whether it was wildlife, conservation, or, of late, his preoccupation, fascination with Bigfoot. And so in the process of writing that book, I'd become aware of Paul Freeman in some detail, and so I'd reached out. One of the things I wanted to do if I was going to write an insightful review was get beyond the lines, and he's a journalist, he's skilled at writing, skilled at spinning a story. But is it that? Is it just a story? How reliable is his recounting of the facts? And so he provided for me a long list of names, or I gave him a list of names. He provided their contact information. And of course, most prominent amongst those featured were Wes Summerlin and Paul Freeman, these two characters. So on our way back, I said, hey, let's go pay a visit. So we did, and it was, I'm quite confident, caught him totally unawares. I mean, he knew who I was because we had communicated by phone, and I had expressed an interest to come out and see him, but we were anticipating it several weeks into the future. This trip with my brother was unscheduled, unexpected, unanticipated, spontaneous. After he was very gracious about at my request to examine some of the casts firsthand, and as I plied him with questions, with very pointed questions about not only details of the casts themselves but their provenience, he said, well, you obviously know a lot about footprints. how would you like to see some? I go, what are you talking about? He says, I mean, some fresh tracks in the ground. He said, I just found some this morning. And as we discovered, and as I was already somewhat aware, he made a habit at every spare moment, when the weather permitted, the conditions permitted, he would run those roads, those foothill roads, and they're just dirt. So anything that crosses or walks the shoulder leaves a record of its passing. And he said, I had just been up of this one, and he mentioned the area near Black Snake Ridge, and found the first tracks of this season. He said, they're not very good. He goes, but I'll take you up and show you if you want to see. I said, well, how far are we talking? Oh, about 20 minutes. Oh, of course, let's go. I turned to my brother, of course, let's go. We're here, let's do it. So we did, and we went up there, and we pulled up on the side, and sure enough, there's this farm access road. I mean, the roads down there, like I said, many of them are tertiary dirt roads, but a lot of them are gravel improved. But there was a farm access road that cut off through the fields that was just graded dirt. And of course, this dirt is that fine loess. It's been, we're in February, so the snows have just started to melt on the lower pastures and up the hillsides. So everything's saturated, very muddy, clay, ductile mud. And here's this line of tracks, just as clear as a bell. I couldn't believe it. I literally could not believe it. I'm thinking to myself, how did he do this? He must have done this. How did he didn't know we were coming though. Why would he do this? And anyway, the tracks, I mean, they were so clear. As I knelt down and looked at some closely, I mean, the details were very well defined. There were tension cracks and so forth. Again, he said, these aren't very good. He said, I've got so many casts these days. He said, I wouldn't even bother unless they're perfect at taking copies. Well, what he saw as imperfections were all the signatures of the dynamics, the animation, the tension cracks, the slide-ins, the toe splay here and not here, and tightly curved here and extended here, and drag outs and so forth. It was that was stunning.
And that changed you forever?
Well, it did. I mean, that was the beginning. That swung the door wide open, basically. But yeah, I mean, much of it, the seriousness of the potential was impressed upon me on that instance more than anything else.
Now, I certainly don't want to put words in your mouth, but in the book, and there's details there that really add to the story.
Sure.
And the fact is, he really thought that he was being hoaxed by Paul.
Yeah.
And they left the area, and he talked with his brother, and y'all went and got some casting material,
right, exactly.
some plaster of Paris,
Yep.
and said, let's go back up there without Paul.
Yeah.
So Paul didn't
Yeah.
even know he was going back up there.
Oh,
They
no,
went back up
no.
there so he could examine them even more, found where the tracks came from in a different location that Paul wasn't even aware of.
Yeah.
And it's just, the story was great.
My attitude was, even if this is a hoax, and it could be, I said, what a case study in the anatomy of a hoax, because it's rare that you have this extensive a documentation of the passage of it, of whatever, whether it was a creature or a hoaxster.
How many tracks were there, would you say?
Well, and that is another thing. I would estimate between 35 and 45 clear footprints. And basically it had come, well, this was what was interesting, because as we approached, Paul said, yeah, pull over here. And so my brother was driving, and so he pulls over the pickup truck, and you can see the tracks carrying on down, and they left the little spur farm access road, and they trailed down across the fallow field, had stubble. You can see some of the tracks actually had the stubble embedded in the mud, in the plaster, and seemed to have made a loop and come back. At least that's how Paul emphasized it. And so I'm sitting here looking, just kind of thinking, and we've got tracks starting essentially, it seems, where our truck is parked, making what seems to be a hairpin loop out into the field, returning to where the truck is parked. So I'm visioning Paul or somebody in Paul's employ or whatever, collaborator, donning his fake wooden feet in the bed of the truck, jumping out onto the muddy road, trotting out a loop, coming back and diving into the back of the truck, and then leaving the scene. So that's how I was thinking. That was my first interpretation. Well, I said, okay, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They're real. Then they had to start and stop somewhere else. They're not underneath the truck.
Okay.
Is that me?
It sounds like it's coming from
Or is it coming from over there?
from over there.
I felt my thing vibrate. That's why I wondered.
Maybe it's a computer speaker.
Sounds like the computer.
Maybe in this office.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's email coming in. You want to close that
Oh,
door?
Yeah. It's fine. You might have to move that rug to close it.
Okay.
It's fine. And that's fine. Just wad it up, put it over. So I said, okay, if this is real, then it had to start and stop beyond where the truck was parked. So let's start marking each and every individual footprint, which we did. And I said, now I'm going to go up this way along the road because there have to be more tracks beyond where the truck was parked. And so looked and looked and looked and didn't find any at first. But what we did find is down beyond where supposedly it made the hairpin turn, there were tracks going both ways. And I go, well, it didn't have to come from that way. Maybe it was coming from the other way. And as we pinned out each track, the inflection point, the hairpin, was not out in the middle of the field. It was right under where the truck had been parked. So they had come not from what it seemed to be up the hillside and down and down across and made a hairpin loop and disappeared, but they had come, I think what had happened was it had come down the Mill Creek drainage, which was over on the other side. The actual watershed is back this way. And then over here had come down along that creek bottom, and then down here's where the old abandoned fruit orchards, the plum and apple orchards are, and the old, they called it the Coyote School, which was essentially just a collapsed building on a stone and cement foundation. That it got various different uses, but the one suggestion was the Sasquatch kind of bivouacked in there, as was suggested at one point by what appeared to be, I can relate to this today, a pile of vomit full of apricot or plum pits. And the thought was that the Sasquatch had gorged itself on these rotting plums and then regurgitated all the pits and was there in the basement. Well, then its trail would have led it up, and it turns out like I said, the inflection point was under the truck, and then it started to run. We could see where the tracks, and I've got one photograph where it started to run, and the toes slid back across the instep. And then it left a series of half tracks with twice the step length as it was making its way back. And I think then it was shooting down for the drainage ditch, which was the only cover in this, sprawling fields. It had brush growing along the banks, and it could get into cover. So what I think, the way I reproduce or reconstructed in my mind, foraging down along the Mill Creek drainage, hits those orchards, gets some fruit, making its way back up. But this would have been on a late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, given the evidence from the decay, the weathering rather, of the footprints and the dramatoglyphic details that were visible. I think somebody was coming down the mountain road, the Black Snake Road. And this would have been the first night with the melt-off that they could have gotten up that, navigated that road. And, first night the kids could have had a barbecue or a kegger or whatever, partying up there. We're coming down late at night, those headlights bouncing. There was a one string where every second I didn't cast it because of the nearly complete inundation with water. It makes it a little bit more challenging. We were a little bit under the gun, but this one was fascinating. You can see the angle of the heel. So you can see that this is the heel angled 45 degrees, but then it pivoted, and all the toes have left deep troughs as it began to run, but slid across the instep, left a little pressure ridge right across here as well. But that was followed by a series of half tracks.
So I would think at that moment you had to know there's not anyone in the world who could possibly, with any kind of caricature of a footprint, create that kind of movement in a fake footprint.
Well, pretty much, yeah. I mean, it took some further pondering and contemplation for that to gel and completely solidify. But
Will you ask that question again, Randy?
So the dynamics of that one print, and we're talking about 35 prints, but just in this one print where it crossed, made a pivot, like maybe it was looking back and decided I need to run. So all in the same footprint shows three different movements where it turns and pivots and then takes off, and its feet slide across the print as it jets down the road.
That's right. Yeah. So it all that sank in gradually and began, and some of it, some of these pieces were kind of disconnected, and it took even more information, more contextual consideration to then suddenly find it. It's like a puzzle piece on a cardboard table, and you've got that one piece, and then all of a sudden, of course, it goes right there. Well, and how could I have missed that? But this was a fascinating one too, where the toes had slid in the mud extruding up through the gaps between the toes. And because of the depth, there's a little bit of side impression. And you can see that little toe has 3 segments, whereas the big toe has only 2. Now, most people, if you were to ask on the street, did you know that your thumb has only 2 bones in it compared to the 3 in all the remaining fingers? And in fact, the same holds for your toes. Your big toe has 2 bones in it, while even your pinky toe, your little toe, has 3 bones. The last one sometimes is rather small, but that's a detail most people don't know. So anyway, it was quite an amazing experience. I tell you, even my brother, lacking the anthropological and anatomical training education, was duly impressed by the whole thing, and we, neither of us could see any reasonable explanation to dismiss this, other than it was, or to account for it, I should say.
Did any of your skepticism, or whatever you would like to call it, questioning the existence, did it dissipate in this moment?
It did. I don't know that I can really, I think this probably was the most significant influence on arriving at that conclusion. Because for me, the footprints constitute the most compelling body of data that we have. I mean, there are other amazing evidences and individual experiences and anecdotes,
There's a lot of other speculative things that you come up with, say, like also in the book, Legend Meets Science, you were out in a very remote location. You guys were camping,
right,
and a couple nights in a row you guys had a visitor,
right,
and something was rifling through a backpack and actually took a select item of food, which doesn't make any kind of sense to any known animal that we know of, especially bear.
Right.
To rifle, unzip a duffel bag or unzip a backpack and take only one specific food item. Right. Isn't that?
Yeah, no, it's very, They don't make sense in everyday explanatory factors. I mean, it only makes sense when you line all these things together under the umbrella of there is an unrecognized large bipedal primate that has persisted in the environment of not only North America but around the world.
Well, I'm throwing that in for my own interest because of the zipper part. Because I did a video.
Well, it was actually clasps.
Oh,
it was clasped, not a zipper.
Okay,
per se,
okay. I thought it was a zipper.
It had unclasped the flap and then pulled the thing open and rifled. Stuff was taken out, but not ripped apart. I mean, usually a bear gets into a garbage bag that's serving as a cash bag, and they just shred it to bits. I mean, we've experienced that in the field, where an old, aged geriatric bear was quite persistent and got rather belligerent.
So I think of how many stories is in this one drawer, and how beautiful that is. Does each one of these drawers represent its own story?
More or less, yeah. I mean, not necessarily independent of others, because obviously there's some overflow, you know. There's another example of that. This is not the entire forefoot, but where it had just dug in with the toes to gain
how spread
purchase.
those toes are.
Yeah. And it shows the muscularity, or the strength, not necessarily muscularity, but the strength and the length of those toes. Yeah, I mean, there are many an example. This one was interesting. We were speaking of John Mindzinski, came to my office, and this was our first introduction. And we were talking back and forth. He says, well, Dr. Meldrum, I'd like your opinion. He reaches down in his book bag and satchel, carefully pulls this out. What do you think of this? He said, I was at a conference up in Walla Walla at Walt Whitman, and I heard some people talking about having seen footprints, and so I called a local, and I've gone blank on her name, Dar Addington, might have heard her name. Sent her up to the region. She scouted around, and found a line of tracks, made a cast. He goes, what do you think of this? I looked at it and I said, well, come back here. Let me ask you what you think of it. I pulled this out of the drawer. That's the same individual.
And who was that one from?
This one is cast by Paul Freeman, or actually, Paul Freeman.
Now, the Lady Dar, if I read correctly in Vance Orchard's book, she used to pack goats.
Yes.
She used to pack goats through the mountains.
That's how John knew her. He trained her in goat packing.
Wow.
See, John's the father of goat packing.
How many years apart were those taken?
This was 94, and this one was, he had, let's see, 95.
So same
general
area,
region. Yeah.
But they didn't know each other, right? Or did they?
Yes, Dar and John know each other. Yeah.
But,
Actually, I'm sorry. No. They know each other, but they don't work in the field together. Dar is quite independent of this other group, West Summerlin, and so anyway. And I'm quite confident in this one because it was cast at the same time as this one. Well, you can see here, this stepped as the heel came up. It slid, displaced. So came up and displaced. And that's what dragged the toe impressions, and in the process pushed up a pressure ridge. Wow. And you've got that sharp edge there because the soil gets kind of clayey. So instead of simply making a hump, it actually fractured and slid. And there's that sharp edge right along there. So that dynamic is sophisticated, and it's all incorporated in the right place for the axis of flexion. And so I'm very confident. I was very confident in these two to begin with, but then to have him bring this one, and it's clearly the same individual, no question. And that was one of the questions, I asked very early on as I got involved with this and started collecting footprints. One of the things I was very interested in trying to establish with that exercise was the repeat appearance of recognizable individuals. In my mind, if these creatures are as rare as they must be to have avoided, not avoid detection, but avoid acknowledgement, recognition, then when tracks are found in a given area, the odds of it representing one of those very few individuals is very high. So we should have lots of examples of repeat appearances. So as I began to look with that goal in mind, example after example after example. I could not prevent a little chortle. Oh, you're kidding. And he goes, I don't know if it goes this way or if it goes this way. I looked at it and I said, well, as an anatomist, I can tell you it goes this way. And this is the tailbone, the coccyx. You can see the cheeks quite clearly. In fact, you know, there's obviously smooth skin here because you can see the contrasting striations of hair, especially thick on the backs of the thighs. And so we call this in anatomy the natal cleft. Right underneath the tailbone, guess what? That's a sphincter, as clear as a sphincter can be. And then this would be the external, probably female external genitalia.
And you can actually see those same, anatomical dynamics in Patty as she walks.
Well, some of it, I mean, you can see the cheeks.
Yeah.
You can clearly see the cheeks and the contour. She has very muscular gluteals. And so, yeah, there is, and there is a shot, especially early on, and it usually doesn't make it on television because it's early in the gyration segment, where the camera catches a good 45 posterior view, 45 degree angle. And I tell you, a dead ringer. I mean, it's just that muscularity, well-defined. You know, because if we carry more adipose as a rule, and so if we sat down like this, it would to just a crack. We'd have a butt crack rather than a gaping.
Are you saying we're more chunky on our hind end?
We tend to be. We tend to carry. And that I wouldn't. It wouldn't think it unlikely, especially, you know, Patty in October, like any other good self-respecting bear, has probably loaded up on calories that are available.
Yeah.
And that's one place to pack it. And humans, cetopegia is the tendency, like primates employ, to store fat in an area that's kind of out of the way, has the benefit of a nice cushion, stadium chair, portable stadium chair.
All right, we should do lunch.
Anyway, yeah.
This is where we're staying in Pocatello, Idaho. We just had a 2-hour nightmare trying to find Meldrum's lab. We didn't know he's got 3 different classrooms, 8 different labs. Hey everyone, Cynthia, the producer, got us an Airbnb. So after our day spent with Meldrum, I just want to show you this. Airbnb. I mean, this is a little bit out of my league. Okay, it's a lot out of my league. They all went to get something to eat. I was in the shower, so they're just gonna bring me back something. Look, it's got a library with a ladder, and the upstairs, I ain't even gonna go upstairs, but this place is huge. So there's 4 of us, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4, Alex, Cynthia, so there's 5 of us. Okay, so here they are, got all their equipment, getting their stuff downloaded. They got this nice kitchen. Man, this is really nice. But I'm sleeping in the basement. So they gave me the basement. But you got to see this basement. I only got 3 hours of sleep last night, drove for 17 hours, and slept for 3 in a parking lot of a Maverick gas station. So look at this. 10 beds in this room. Here's my living room. I'm charging my Jackery. Got all my stuff. Got my own little kitchen in here. Gonna be making me some coffee. Dude, this is awesome. And, you know, of course, I brought this stuff in from the vehicle because I didn't want to leave it out there all night. I didn't want to leave anything in the vehicle that was valuable, like the Jackery and all my thermal equipment and the refrigerator, freezer. So I brought all that in. Everything's going through the process. But my goodness. Must be nice, all I got to say. This is way out of my league.
I like the idea of you moving to Washington so you can do this full time, Randy. I do. What would Julie think?
She'd come and visit.
She'd come and visit because she'd want to be by her daughter and the grandkids.
Right, yeah, she'd come and visit.
All right, let's see. We're getting there.
Maybe she doesn't like it. Oh,
All right, are we all?
we're filming.
All right, I'm gonna do
Here,
this.
let me just
watch,
look and
watch.
see.
I'm gonna do the Keanu Reeves.
The Keanu Reeves.
Oh yeah, we're totally
No, it's
in
not touching. It's
It's
your arm
not
around
touching.
somebody, but not touching. Awesome.
Okay, now normal.
Thank you.
Normal.
Okay.
Now touch.
Look, I think my arm has to go low. Now touch. Okay.
Okay, here's a map of the area. The green circle is Walla Walla. The red circle is Dixie, Washington. And the black arrow points up to the yellow area, which is the 5 Point area. All right, just entered Dixie, and immediately we've got the Biscuit Ridge Road right here. So this is the road heading up to 5 Points. All right, we are up here at the 5 Points area of the map, and so this is where it all happened. So this is a convergent of 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4 roads, but they call it 5 Points. And I believe this road here takes you up to Black Snake Ridge. And this is Biscuit Ridge, so you go on up to Biscuit Ridge. Remember, I had the hairs when I slept off the side of the road. I had those hairs stuck in my bug guts on the windshield, and that happened up there on between Biscuit Ridge and Black Snake Ridge. I've tootled on these roads quite a bit over the last decade, and one time in the middle of the night, my back tire in my truck went off the side of the road into a deep, or I couldn't get out. So like 3 a.m. I had to walk to a farmer's house, wake the poor guy up and said, please, I am sorry. I know this is crazy, but he had to get a tractor and come pull me out of this ditch at 3 a.m. because I'm just fiddle farting around, going up on ridges, driving around at night looking for stuff. But here we are. This is where Meldrums foot tracks and foot findings and castings all took place within this area. So I'm going to send the drone up and see what it looks like from the sky. That way we can kind of look at areas that he was describing, like the drainage area, and coming from the higher elevations. There's higher elevations over there, so did it come down from there and then was working down towards the drainage, which would be either way. So yeah, very interesting. Now we can get a bird's eye view of what the terrain is. Any luck?
No.
Wind is a bit of a drag. Yeah, I got up pretty high. I got a pretty good zoom on it. I mean, the roads, and I just kind of watched. I just looked at the roads going all the way out quite a ways in all directions. Looked in the fields, didn't see anything. No movement. Nothing stood out. Good luck.
That was quick, man.
Well, I just wanted to get an overview of the area, because when I go to my YouTube, I'll make diagrams on the videos to show where things happened, you know, the drainage areas and where it came from and where it was going, possibly. Do you know where the old Coyote School was?
I don't.
There was an old school.
Yeah.
That I'd like to tell people where that old school was, but I have no idea.
I have no idea.
So.
All right.
All right. Well. Good luck on finding your cow, man.
Yeah,
It's a heifer, right?
Well, no, she's actually now a cow because she's got a calf, and the calf's with us. She'll come back. We'll find her.
Hey, do you mind if I throw this little interaction on my video? Go to the Sensible Bigfoot Project.
Okay.
That's where I'll put my videos on. The Sensible Bigfoot Project.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
See you, buddy. Now, before we leave this area, I'm going to show you a book called The Walla Walla Bigfoot. Earlier in the story of the foot track finds, Meldrum discussed Vance Orchard, the journalist, newspaper man who was a Bigfoot enthusiast in the area. Well, in this book, there's a photo of Wes Summerlin standing here at the 5 Points at a different time, and you can see the track right there in the mud. So this is an area that Paul Freeman would frequently travel to in the springtime or whenever, looking for tracks. He understood patterns. That's why he got lucky. You know, people would say he was lucky, but he was not just lucky. He put in a lot of effort, and he showed up into places like that and found tracks that showed patterns of showing up there.
For the